following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Blowing out of the backfield, exploding down the
Following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Radioheads, broadcasting live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now your hosts, Tyler Clutts, Kristi Scales, and Brad Sham.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's Radioheads. This is the third edition of Radioheads as we go into Week 6 of the NFL season. And the populace is now officially looking for real estate. You're in real estate, aren't you,
right.
Tyler?
Yes.
Are you selling building space with ledges for people to crawl out onto? Because I think they're looking for them.
Yeah, no,
now.
we represent the companies that are fueling the people that are looking for these ledges. But we had to make sure that those are not exposed to our clients.
Can I just ask you from when you played at various levels, at college, the various professional leagues that you played in, how, as a player, did you react to, and I'm guessing that in most of those places, in varying degrees and proportions, that fan reaction was somewhat similar. The higher up the
Utah
chain,
Blaze didn't have a ton of fan reactions after a loss.
There weren't. They didn't.
Are those the folks that practiced in the parking lot or in the public
park?
They
yes,
practiced in the public
with
park.
dogs running
And
through
what
the middle
league
of our
was that?
kickoff drill.
What league was that?
The Arena Football League.
The Arena Football League.
The Arena Football League.
But I will tell you, if you got 500 people to a game, and I did some arena football games, so I know that if you got 500 people to a game, 400 of them really cared about what the Blaze was doing.
That's true.
And they were angry if you lost, and they knew why.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the part that I wonder if it amuses players.
Yeah, and so to your point, when I played, I was pretty intentional about not listening to like sports radio and kind of pulling away just so we could focus on what we have to focus on. But now listening and then still being close enough to the game and not being out for too long, I still get it, right? And you watch the game and I'm still thinking like I'm one of the guys on the field and, you know, how to approach that, how to correct that. And so it's just funny. I was listening to today. I was listening to 105.3, the fan partner of the Cowboys.
Right,
and,
flagship station.
Ben and Skin had a guy call in and he was like, I can't believe you guys still are supporting the Cowboys. And I'm thinking like, okay, first of all, you're talking to a Dallas Cowboys partner sister radio station, first of all. Okay. Second of all, we've had two losses to arguably the two best teams in the NFC. I mean, there's a case to be made about that. Yes, like things haven't gone right, but we're also in the NFL, right? And we are so we're 3-2. A lot of teams would really, really be happy to be 3-2 right now. Why are we jumping ship where we're at right now?
We just started the second quarter.
That's right.
We just started the second
We
quarter.
are literally 11 minutes left in the second quarter.
Correct.
Where we're at right now.
Yeah,
Correct.
But the last 2 weeks have highlighted some deficiencies.
Yes,
and
no
so,
doubt.
So
and we
what
can talk
do you,
about
what
those
do you,
for sure.
So let's pinpoint some of those. But from yesterday's game with the Packers, what did you think of the line play, both sides of the line?
I think for the first time in a few years here, I think we've had back-to-back weeks where we're dominated up front. And I say that because we didn't have the penetration that Rod Marinelli expects from our defensive front. And we didn't have the downhill play from the linebackers that I think that we would want. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the fact that we've been neutralized with light boxes, 6 and 7 man boxes, and our run game has been neutralized. It's the first time we've seen that. And I don't want to say, okay, hey, Tyron went down, everything, we're not the O-line that we are because, it started that way in New Orleans with him in the game. And so it's the first time we've seen that. So to say that that's a trend that's going to continue, that's not the case. I don't believe that. But I also see that there's some things that we need to address.
Well, but you say that the run game was neutralized. Well, Zeke Elliott averaged over 5 yards a carry, and the Cowboys 6 yards a carry. But when you dig a hole like that, and you're having to play catch up and pass the ball, and then of course you can't do the play action pass if you didn't establish the run early or be able to stick with it. Yeah. So it's not excuses, but those are reasons.
I watched. I spent part of today watching the first half offense, and I get an opportunity to watch coaches' tape, and I'm not a coach or a scout. I'm not an expert, but I did want to see. I had the feeling because I was asked on the radio this morning about the play of Cam Fleming, and the first thing I said was, "This was not Chaz Green in Atlanta." That this is not that. And I said, I'm going to look at it, but my gut feeling is that when you look at the whole game, you're going to find out that probably 70 or 75% of the time he was just fine.
Just fine.
And there were a few plays that got away from him. I know one was a sack. I was looking at it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I just happened to, and Zadarius Smith just ran over him.
Yeah.
And maybe Zadarius Smith is a better football player than Cam Fleming. That's possible, and that I can't get mad at Fleming for that. There are a lot of teams starting worse tackles than he is.
Agreed.
But my pushback would be that I don't know that they were dominated as a group up front, because if they had not turned the ball over repeatedly, they were actually making yards. They were running for chunks and passing for big chunks. So here's the things that I saw just from watching the first half. Amari Cooper had a ball hit him in the hands and wind up as an interception. And they're at about the 15-yard line at that point. They're going in to score.
Right.
The next time they had it, they were down in the second quarter. They were going in at about somewhere at the edge of the red zone. And Tavon Austin, all 112 pounds of Tavon Austin got called for holding, which he did.
Well, you think it was on the edge, I thought.
Okay, I'll even give you that.
It doesn't matter if it was on the edge or not. It was called.
Yeah. So Tavon Austin gets called. So there's a penalty that derails that possession and brings it back. And the times before they started clicking, I mean, they were gashing them. They were running in much the same way the Eagles ran against them. It looked like to me, and then they would turn the ball over. I thought the quarterback made a miscalculation, if not a misread, on the second interception. The third interception, which might have changed the game if it had been called pass interference.
I was going to say that was one of the glaring missed calls of the game.
So they now, and then here's another thing that I thought that was a silver lining, and I, I'm the guy that likes fullbacks and backup offensive linemen. So but I thought Brandon Knight played pretty well.
Agreed.
And here's a guy who had never played in an NFL game. And so who cares? Well, here's why you care, because maybe you found a backup tackle right there. This was a guy who was a mauler at Indiana, and he was a tackle. They moved him inside to guard. He switched to that, took right to it. All I'm saying is maybe they found a player. It doesn't help with the loss.
Well,
but I didn't think that they were dominated on the offensive line.
I'll say this, and maybe we've become, and me personally, been spoiled and you used to seeing it the other way. And yes, like we had some chunks, but it wasn't the domination I think that we're used to seeing on the offensive side of the ball, at least, right?
And certainly in the first 3 weeks when they had the defensive line on the back pedal.
We're used to seeing Zach Martin and Travis work together, go up to linebackers and swallow them whole, right? And we're used to seeing Tyron on the edge really solidify and make that edge soft for Zeke to really press that zone run game, stretch it out, and then hit it up in the seam. It has not looked the same the last 2 weeks.
Well, I do think that's fair, and I think that I think that it's fair to say that Travis Frederick is not 100% back. I think, by the way, there's a tour going by, and my brother is leading it. So pleasant good afternoon,
Hi,
to you,
Eric.
sir. He works at the Star and leads tours.
Good source of information from his brother, by the way.
Well, let's not get carried away. I think when you watch Travis the last couple of weeks, he's still better than most.
I was going to say,
and if he's not quite to the level that he was before he got sick, I don't know if I would quibble with that.
Yeah.
And Zach, I think, is, again, it's not an excuse, but it's a fact. I think Kristi said at one point yesterday, or maybe it was just a minute ago, I'm very tired, that it's not an excuse, but it's a reason.
Yeah.
It's an explanation. I mean, Zach Martin's got a bad back.
Yeah.
He's not.
And so I don't think he is all of Zach Martin, but he's going to give it the and so.
Hey, not all of Zach Martin is still better than 99% of guards in the NFL.
I think that you might have something there, but I think it's good enough.
Yeah, I agree.
If they don't turn the ball over.
Definitely. I mean, you're putting good drives together early, and you just can't finish. When you can't finish drives, not only do you not see the points on the board, but there's a momentum swing there, right? When you're actually finishing those drives, and there's a deflation that takes place when you get to the 15-yard line and turn the ball over. So there's something to be said about that.
Wait, stop and tell me about that. I think people need to hear about that. Because you just see large humans pushing against each other.
Yeah.
But as Yogi Berra said, 50% of this game is 90% mental.
That's right.
Talk a little bit. Thank you for chuckling. Talk a little bit about the what it is that happens as a group psychologically to players when you get to the 15-yard line 2 or 3 times and come away with nothing.
Yeah. So when something like that happens, like I said, there's a sense of deflation. Like, okay, we worked really, really hard and we got this thing. And we use this analogy all the time in real estate, right? Like, get it over the finish line. Okay, we're in the red zone now. We're close to finishing. And you get that far, you put that much work because this is one of the hardest. I mean, it's one of the hardest sports to get into as a professional, let alone actually go and excel at that sport. Now you're on the field against professional athletes on the other side trying to stop you, the best athletes in the world. And then you've worked all the way down. You've gotten that close to finish this goal of putting the ball in the end zone. And then it's, we gave it away, especially giving it away, right? If it's a goal line stand and it was just a tough fought battle, but when you give the ball away, there's just this sense you get over there and you're like, dang. You're gonna go through and watch the tape or whatever can they watch tape? Can they watch it live on the sidelines? Or is it still pictures?
It's still pictures. The video technology exists, but the league has not changed the rule yet. So those Surface tablets only show still photos.
Okay, it was the same when I was there. So you're gonna go through and you're gonna look at pictures and you're gonna figure out what you did wrong. But in the back of your mind, it's like, we gave away an opportunity. It's one thing, okay, they stopped us. Credit to them. Let's figure out what it is. Let's go back on the field and we're gonna go give it to them. Now it's like, dang it, like we did that to ourselves. And we did it multiple times this game.
I had that feeling watching the second interception, which when we saw it live, even on replay, I thought, okay, and Babe had a great explanation of what the quarterback sees and how the guy just snuck, and everybody in the stadium can see that guy except the quarterback because he's out of his peripheral vision. And having said that, the guy still made an amazing athletic play.
Yes.
When you go back and watch the play, he stretched out, laid out, leaped over his head, came up with the ball, held on to it, went to the ground. I mean, it was really a tremendous athletic play. Yeah. If one of our players makes that play, we are raving.
We'd be talking about that for a month.
That's right.
Yeah.
So a little credit to them there too.
Yeah. And that's one thing, again, we've got to recognize is we've got to give credit where credit's due. Yes, we don't want them to do these things, but at the same time, you got to give credit for outstanding, out-of-this-world type of plays. And those things happen in this game because of the type of athletes that are out there right now.
All right, now we're going to open up the phone lines. If you would like to join Tyler Clutts and Kristi Scales and me on Radioheads, the number's 888-855-2297. Our producer, Kyle Yeomans, will take your call and get you through to us. And maybe you can ask Kristi about the shirt of the week that
there
she's
we go.
wearing.
What do you think?
So is that Charles or DeMarcus?
No, Charles Haley was last week. This is DeMarcus Ware. But
so that was DeMarcus when he was real big. because he leaned up towards the end of his career.
He did.
But he was much bigger in this.
Well, I'm going to have to ask you some behind the scenes with your former teammate, Demarcus Ware. But this is the America's Team collection. So every Monday, it's a different Cowboy that's featured.
Yeah.
And it's mainly former Cowboys, but there are also current Cowboys. So today, in the pro shops and on DallasCowboys.com, we have the newest drop, which again is each Monday. So Demarcus Lawrence. So the first week was Roger Staubach.
What I'm hearing out of this is that Kristi is getting an entire new T-shirt.
Yeah, that's right.
I was going to say, it must be nice, Kristi. Yeah.
Well, I might be able to hook you guys up with DCM.
One thing I do love about Demarcus, two things. Let me tell you that. One, that he's true to the D-line face mask, right? He has the old school, like all the new guys have all the cool looking face masks. He was like true gritty face mask. I love that. But then two is, so I came here in, it was the first week of December in 2013. Right, we went up to Chicago, played up there. It was a really short week, kind of a whirlwind of week. But obviously, I've watched him play from afar for a long time, and I'm like, this guy is an absolute monster. Like, he's the guy that, like, I don't ever want to cross sideways in the locker room. I'm going to make sure it's well lit because I don't want to be caught, behind the dividers when it's dark. But he met. I guess really the first time I had a conversation with him was at the Cowboys Christmas party at AT&T Stadium, where we go down and they have the train that goes around the outside for the kids,
all the
whole
kids.
family.
That's a great event.
It was amazing. And we'd only had my daughter at this point, and so we were pregnant with our second. And he's walking out as
you weren't pregnant.
No, Tiffany.
No.
Tiffany.
Oh, no.
Don't take the credit.
No.
Don't take the credit from Tiffany.
Please. You weren't.
Sorry, Tiff. I apologize. Yeah, that's all you. But walks up, and we talked to him for like 20 minutes, and I was blown away. And I obviously got to know him better through the time together, but how nice of a person he is.
Sweetheart.
I mean, he is one of the nicest people.
He's a nerd. He is. He's a computer. No, he'll tell you. He's a computer nerd.
Yeah. No, I love it. And he does a great job when he comes on with you guys listening. I mean, he really does. He's insightful. Yeah. He and that's the kind of guy he is off the field too. Right. Like, and he's just as good of a human being as there was. And again, I had been in the locker room for, I don't know, 7 days at this point when we went to this Christmas party, and he knew me and was like, "Hey, Tyler, how's it going? You must be Tyler's wife. We love Tyler." I mean, he didn't have to say those things, but he really, I was blown away at how great of a guy
Did you ever
he
have
was.
to block him?
I did, and that week, and that's why I didn't want to talk to him and get sideways.
Well, who were you playing for?
No.
Oh, in practice?
No, in practice, and I felt it. I mean, when
he's not going full speed?
Because it was a power play, because we had a big power scheme when we were playing, because we were in Chicago and it was freezing cold. That was when that snowstorm came in, and so there was ice on the field over
Worst
Pally
night
Ranch.
ever on the sideline.
Oh, awful. And I played in Chicago, and that was the coldest game I ever played in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to kick Demarcus out, and I remember like, dude, I thought I had a big neck and a strong neck, but this guy like was as solid as possible, and he just made it look effortless. What made me feel worse, I was like, okay, he just tried to spill the fullback that's pulling out, that's fresh, that's coming over here from, being on the streets, and just crushed me. And I remember like, I can't be sore going into this cold game and going to kick him out.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Hey, by the way, as the season progresses and it starts to get colder, and so the Cowboys Nation, the people who have to go to outdoor games for their kids or grandkids or Cowboys on the road, Tyler and I are going to share our best tips for staying warm in cold weather places.
Some time in Canada, so I got some tricks.
Yeah, he's a CFL, so we've got tips from Edmonton, Chicago, and then me at 31 other, visiting stadia around the country. So we'll share those as it goes along.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, more dissection of the game with Green Bay yesterday, and your phone calls, 888-855-2297. Tony in Miami, we know you're there. We're coming to you when we come back on Radioheads.
While a player could look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right, news and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10. Free shipping.
The excitement of Dallas Cowboys football is back at AT&T Stadium.
The place is going crazy in Arlington, Texas.
Don't miss your chance to see the Cowboys live when they host their NFC East rivals, the Eagles, Giants, and Redskins, plus the Green Bay Packers and more.
Elliott works his way through and walks the dog.
Single game tickets are on sale now. Get them before they're gone.
First and goal, quarterback sneak. Prescott pushes up the middle. Touchdown.
Visit DallasCowboys.com to get your tickets today.
Back to Radioheads.
Thanks for being with us on Radioheads. We're here every Monday at 3 o'clock, most Mondays anyway, at 3 o'clock. And I'm Brad Sham with Kristi Scales and former Cowboys fullback Tyler Clutts, dissecting the Cowboys game with Green Bay yesterday. We have not yet talked about the defense, which seemed at least to be the bigger culprit, but we've promised some calls, and we have a couple of folks waiting. So at 888-855-2297, Tony in Miami, thanks for calling Radioheads.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Great.
Great, how you doing?
A little upset because everything that has been happening since last week, the Saints game and the Green Bay game. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you really guys think that we really have the best NFL line in the NFL?
I don't know if they're playing the best right now.
Yeah.
I mean, when they're all healthy, I'll put them up against anybody.
Agreed.
Philadelphia's pretty good.
Yeah.
And there are some others, but I don't know, given health. I mean, what do you think,
I'll
Tyler?
agree with that. I think individually, if you put every offensive lineman out, I'd probably 75% of the time pick that combination of 5 people.
Yeah.
4 for sure. But I think that group together, playing well, can be the best offensive line.
I think we need to update health situation. You mentioned Brandon Knight earlier, Brad, having to step in for Lyle Collins. So Brandon actually ended up playing 28 snaps last night, 39% of the total offensive snaps, 72 in the game for the Cowboys offense. Yeah, but Lyle Collins, it was probably the most important report I had from the sideline last night was when Lyle went out in the middle of the third quarter with the left knee injury, and he was able to walk off under his own power, but instead of coming to the Cowboys bench, usually they come and they'll get on the trainer's table right behind the bench. Lyle, assisted by the medical personnel, they didn't come to the bench. They just went straight up the tunnel, which is where the digital imaging, the X-ray room is. And so some initial reports as of Monday morning that it's a mid-level knee sprain, but we'll find out more. Jason Garrett addresses the media later today, and then the locker room will be open.
Ligament?
I'm not for sure. I don't want to say. I think it's MCL, but I'm not for sure. Not for sure.
That's better than an ACL.
It's better than yes, not ACL, but we'll find out more today. But we could be seeing quite a bit of Brandon Knight moving forward. And the thing that was interesting last week was there were a couple of days where Lyle didn't practice at all, and so one of the days Connor Williams moved from left guard. Not to left tackle because Cam Fleming was already filling in for Tyron there, but over to right tackle. Now, of course, Connor excelled at University of Texas, but he was left tackle. He's never played right tackle in a game. But the other day, Brandon took the reps at right tackle, and on Friday afternoon, Lyle and Brandon split the reps. But again, that's a situation. Just keep monitoring DallasCowboys.com, and we'll keep you updated during the week.
I don't want to talk too much about Brandon Knight, but I could for a long time. That's
why I love Brad.
I was and am a huge Mark Colombo fan.
Yeah.
Okay, Colombo, I think is one of the great stories I've ever seen. First round draft choice of the Bears, just did horrible damage to his knee and virtually had to redshirt, and they saw him as being unsavable physically. And so Bill Parcells traded for him and gave him a redshirt year because Parcells had liked him at Boston College and with the Bears. And Colombo came back and made himself an outstanding offensive tackle, nasty on the field.
Oh, I've heard stories.
You talk about
to Witten about some of those stories.
Through the whistle.
Yeah.
And there is a definite edge to him. Mark made himself the policeman of the offensive lineman. And at Valley Ranch, he would walk around, and if he saw any offensive lineman talking to any reporter, they'd get fined in the kangaroo
Which, when he came back, brought that to this offensive line in 2013 or 14.
As the assistant. Were you there?
When he was doing quality control, when he had just come back. And it was weird. And I didn't know that was a history. I'm literally learning this right now. And they went to the getting fined if you talk to the media rule.
Oh, yeah.
So here's what's really funny.
Back in the day, it was Leonard Davis and all those guys.
And Andre Gerard. And so here's what's funny about that is that he was like that, and I try to pride myself on having good relationships with players, and I just particularly love offensive line.
Which you've excelled at, by the way.
Well, thank you. But
Kristi, not so much. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But I particularly appreciate offensive linemen, and so even Mark would talk to me. I'd have to get him off to the side where no one could see, and more than once I would be talking to Gerard or Leonard or Doug Free, and Mark would stick his head in and say, "That's a fine." Now then, he hurt his knee again in 2007, the year they
Sounds about
won,
right.
and then Doug. That's the first time Doug Free played a lot.
Yeah,
played right tackle, filled in for Mark. Mark came back for the playoff game in Minnesota. They lost that game. Somewhat shortly after that, the Cowboys decided he had reached his end of the road as a player. He went and finished a year in Miami. And then he retired.
That's right.
And before he went into coaching and quality control, he spent a year in the media. And he did preseason games with
By the way, this is
on the
not
radio.
free reign media.
No.
Thank goodness.
No, this is the
not the heavy metal band.
No, he spent time. He did analysis. He was and I more than once gleefully told him, this is so ironic. You who bullied your other offensive linemen into not dealing with the media, now you are media.
Yeah.
I just love that. So now I suspect he's probably swung it back the other way. But the point of even going into all that is Colombo looks at Brandon Knight and sees Mark Colombo.
Yeah.
Tough, scrappy, through the whistle, which Knight embraces. You talk to Brandon Knight, give you a little smile, say, a
little extra.
Try to play the whole play.
Yeah.
So I think whenever you can find a player,
yes,
I think that's a big deal.
Agreed. It adds to the attitude, and we've had guys here in the past like that. Ron Leary was one of those guys that would finish. Lael is one of those guys. So those guys add a swagger and edge to an offense that generally is called on to be composed and collected, right? Whereas that swagger, I think that helps. It helps an offense, push through those really hard games. And so those types of players are very, very, very valuable.
Now, based on history, Kristi, you're telling me that Jason's going to tell us here in half an hour that there is some kind of knee sprain.
Oh, he's going to say day to day. We'll take it week to week. We'll take it day to day.
And my guess is that he's not going to practice on Wednesday and possibly not Thursday. He didn't practice, as you pointed out earlier, Wednesday or Thursday last week because his back, which didn't bother him in New Orleans, and he probably played his best game as a professional in New Orleans. And then his back really tightened up and he couldn't go. And so if he's I would by no means rule him out for Sunday against the Jets, but I would be willing to wager, and I'm not a betting man, that he won't practice this week.
I think that's safe. And I'll say this, too, if it is an MCL, and I'm literally just all speculative here. I'm not saying it's one way or the other. But if it is an MCL, at least he's in a position that can allow someone playing through that. If it was a defensive lineman that's got to turn the corner, run the hoop, that's where that MCL really comes into play and limits your ability, is trying to turn the corner. Offensive lineman, you're kick sliding, it's not a straight on ligament where it affects you pushing and driving. It's when you're turning and you're running. And so if that's the case, at least he's in a position, and again, all speculative here, but he can play through that if it's manageable.
Well, you better hope so, because of the domino effect on the roster, because you're basically out of tackles, because Tyron Smith, again, we're going to hear day to day, week to week, but Tyron Smith is likely not going to play next week. And so your swing tackle, Cam Fleming, who's been active every game, is now your starter at left tackle. And if Lyle can't go, your other backup tackle who was active for the first time last week is Brandon Knight, and he'll be at right tackle. So who's the backup tackle?
Well, Connor Williams.
It's got to be Connor. It has to be.
It could, but then you have to make a change at guard.
Looney's got to be able to fill in there. He's got to be the guy.
But it's just that domino effect.
Yeah, but if you have to deactivate, a lineman, you've got Adam Redmond. You've got 9 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
The interesting thing would be, and here's something that could happen. So maybe Lyle is well enough to suit up and play in an emergency.
Yeah.
So maybe they act. We're getting way ahead of ourselves. And Babe would now say, "You're giving me a headache," because I love doing this. Kristi and I both love doing this.
Yeah.
But I could see Knight starting against the Jets. But Lyle is active.
Right. We've done that with Zach in the past, right? Where they'll dress Zach, and he is a reserve just in case of emergency. We don't want to use it if we don't have to, but if we absolutely have to, we can't.
There are very subtle things that happen in the game on the sideline, personnel-wise. And here's an example. Through the first 4 weeks, because Zach Martin is managing this back issue, it's an irritated disc in his back, he is not participating in special teams.
Yeah.
He is not blocking on field goals and extra points. Last night, after Lyle left the game, we had the only linemen that were dressed had to go out there, and so Zach's back out there. And I know it's no big deal. He's blocking for 72 snaps on offense. But again, it's just these little things where the athletic training staff is working with the coaching staff to manage these kinds of situations. And again, it goes to our point of there being a domino effect for every single thing that happens.
I mean, you just talk about field goal. The field goal unit. If there's a 6-inch gap, that may be enough for someone to squeeze through.
Well, hey, the 5-yard penalty on Suafilo, who, by the way, has been part of it all 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But that Brett Maher made it from 28 yards there late in the fourth quarter, and then the penalty happens. It moves back, and he misses the second one. So, are we worried about kicking? And does it matter if we're worried? Because is there anybody out there?
I think we're talking about it because – again, I talk about being spoiled, right? We had a kicker in Dan Bailey that was money for so long, right? And now we've got a kid who's really talented, got a big leg. He can kick, he can make the field goals, but we're talking 75%. That's a big difference than 98%. It's a huge difference. So I think we're asking those questions. And again, as a kicker. And listen, I've been on the specialist side, long snapping. I spent a lot of time with specialists, and I respect them as much as any player on the field because of the amount of pressure that you have to perform in a very focused situation, right? Everyone's looking at you, and if you make a mistake, everyone's pointing the finger like it's your fault. So I get the pressure that goes with it, but it is also your job to do that. That's ultimately either you do it or you don't. It's black or white. So when you make those, even your move 5 yards back, a makeable kick. We have to make those. But again, that's disregarding everything that happened before the game. If you're saying it was your fault that we didn't have an opportunity to win that game because you missed that field goal.
Right.
No, that's not the case. It's everybody else that has played in that game. We're here because of all that.
By the way, fun fact, Green Bay is the only team in the league that drafted their punter, their place kicker, and their long snapper.
Mm-hmm.
Long snapper. I remember seeing that. I remember they drafted a long snapper.
They drafted their long snapper, and they're the only team in the league that drafted. Wow. As a matter of fact, there's no other team that's drafted their kicker and punter.
Wow.
How about that? Mary has been waiting on the phone in Tyler, Texas.
Donna.
Mary?
Donna.
I'm sorry. It's Donna. Sorry. Thank you, Donna. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good afternoon. How are you all doing?
Good.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks for calling.
Well, as for myself, I'm doing pretty good. But after that loss yesterday, I had to shake it off. I have a question. I mean, I'm 57 years old, and I grew up as a Dallas Cowboy fan. And I just see some problems with the offense and the defense. And I think we need a new kicker. And don't blame Dak Prescott and Ezekiel. It's the whole offensive line, and we need to get our defense on track. And I'm very disappointed. Like I said, I know, I don't know if Jerry need to come have a talk in the locker room or what's going on. I can understand Jason Garrett. I've been knowing him for a long time. Throwing the flag on the side. Looks like sometimes we get cheated. I want to know what's going on with my Dallas Cowboys.
Well,
what do you all think?
All right,
so Donna, were you shocked,
yes.
as shocked as the rest of us when Jason Garrett got the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty? I tell you, that was the biggest. That was like a Gronkowski spike in the end zone when he slammed the red flag.
Was I wrong to like get excited about watching that? Like,
no, I think it fired up a lot of people. It fired up the players and coaches.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how exasperated they were on the sideline when you get from Kellen Moore, arms outstretched, like, are you bleeping kidding me?
Yeah.
Not that he said that, but it was that kind of reaction to the penalty. It's like, oh my gosh, if you riled Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
Well, Kristi is in better position than either of us to talk about what the exchanges were on the sideline. But part of that penalty flag, I believe, and this is what I took from your reports and from talking to you after the game, correct me if I'm wrong, that was not the first visit the two of them had.
Absolutely not. There had been a buildup throughout the game, and there are 7 officials on the field, and one of them is the side judge. The side judge and the down judge are on work the same sideline. They flip sidelines by half. So Scott, let me look up his name because I don't want to mess it up, but the side judge was Scott Edwards. He's the one that threw the flag on Jason Garrett. He and Sarah Thomas were working the Cowboy sideline only in the second half. But he is the one who had an exchange with Jason Garrett following the pass interference penalty on Anthony Brown, which was called, and then Jason Garrett challenged it, lost the challenge, so the penalty stood. Just a little bit later, when the Packers were about to score on the Cowboys and they're way down in the Cowboys' red zone, Scott is in the back corner, so the back end line, 10 yards deep in the end zone. Sarah's at about the 4-yard line. Jason Garrett is out of the coach's box at the 30-yard line at about the 25. And before the snap...
Circle this right here, Fred. Circle this.
So Scott Edwards runs from the back line pre-snap all the way up to Jason Garrett to admonish him to move back into the coach's box. He did not throw a penalty flag at that time, but it's like, get back.
So it's really important, and thank you for breaking that down, because it's really important to understand where these officials are located, right? Because that is not where his focus is supposed to be.
Thank you.
Why is he? And it was close to the snap. Okay, it wasn't like they're just breaking the huddle. It was pretty close to the snap. I'm sorry, I can't tell you if it was exactly like 8 seconds or 15 seconds left
You've
on the
been
clock.
very detailed.
But it was
Don't
okay.
apologize, please.
So we've already had that, and that's what was in my mind when a little bit later the exchange happens and Jason Garrett slams down his second challenge flag of the game, and he obviously said something.
That was on the
Cooper catch,
right.
which was right in front of Jason Garrett and the Cowboys coaching staff and the players, and they're all signaling catch. And I can understand how the official would miss that call because it was close. But after the game, Ron Torbert, the referee, was made available to a pool reporter. And he clarified that the penalty, unsportsmanlike unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Jason Garrett was for verbal abuse of the official. So
did you hear any of that?
I did not, thank goodness. And thank goodness my microphone was not open, Brad, because radio heads may not be on the air anymore because I think that some of the words may have violated George Carlin's 7 words you cannot say on the air.
Well,
and we might have lost our FCC license.
We need a break, but I'm just going to say this. I've done a lot of Major League Baseball and college basketball, and you will see, and you rarely see it in the NFL, in my opinion, but you will see a guy, an umpire or a college basketball referee who thinks he's the reason everybody came to the stadium.
Yes.
And that was the feeling I had from this guy. Why are you standing in the end zone worried about the coach? Just stay back there and do your job. Someone closer to him will tell him. And the you could just see when you look back at the play on the replay, and you could see Jason's disgusted because he's had to use his last challenge because in his opinion, they have blown another call. Mm-hmm. So he spikes the thing. Well, you could see all the hubris in the guy just well up, and you're not going to show me up.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what, Scott? No one came to see you.
No.
But and I want to say something now that you and Babe mentioned yesterday. That's one reason why the officials flip sides each half.
Yeah.
Well, they needed to flip each quarter yesterday. We're going to take our last break and be right back on Radioheads.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus.
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store and learn how to buy one smartphone and get a second one on us. Based on GWS One score, September 2018.
It's time for Tailgate with the OtterBox boys.
OtterBox? The makers of those crazy protective phone cases?
The one and only. They're also wild about protecting parking lot parties from sad drinks. It's why they made elevation tumblers.
Rumor around the crockpot is they're made from stainless steel with a copper lining to keep temps hot or cold.
True. They even come in 7 different sizes, up to 64 ounce, the growler.
I like how OtterBox drinks. Thinks.
And that's been Tailgating with the OtterBox boys. Check out all the colors and sizes of their elevation tumblers at otterbox.com.
A man's Stetson doesn't just protect him from life's elements. It projects an unstoppable and legendary spirit, just like the men wearing silver and navy on the field every Sunday. Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. They are still the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find Stetson hats in the Pro Shop or at Stetson.com today.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Back to Radioheads.
Welcome back. Last few minutes, Brad Sham, Kristi Scales, Tyler Clutts. After the Cowboys dropped one to Green Bay yesterday, and we have had a great time today talking about everything except the thing that probably cost them the game, which was the defense. And Tyler, the thing that really stunned me, I had a guy ask me on the radio this morning, were they unprepared? I said, I know they were not unprepared because I know they prepared, but they looked unprepared.
Yeah.
You just saw good players who you've seen play well before, flailing and flying through the air and waving like a windmill, and that wasn't good.
No, I agree. It was uncharacteristic of a couple groups, I think, on the field. Defensive line being one, and then also the linebacker core. I think we've been so confident in that group for so long, and I don't think that they've put 2 weeks of subpar performance together. To be honest, and so, a guy like Leighton Vander Esch, who we've been raving about since the second he walked in these doors, I think that this was probably his worst game as a Cowboy, to be honest with you. One thing that I feel like we're missing from these guys, and Sean has been traditionally a guy that is a really savvy, very, very sideline to sideline linebacker, has made a lot of plays for the Cowboys in the years. But he's never really been known as that thumper, right? Coming down, hit you in the mouth. Jalen and Leighton are both following that trajectory in that they're going to slip blockers, which as a fullback, it's more frustrating to me playing against those kinds of linebackers because you never know where they're going to slip and they're going to inside, outside, are they going to actually take you on? But there was times in this game where it called for one of the three guys to come down and hit either a guard coming up onto him or a tight end, someone hit them in the mouth and put them back into the ball carrier. And that was one of the things that I just didn't see a lot of. And I think that physicality has been something really we haven't had since Hitchens or Rolando McClain, right? Those are the two guys that were kind of known as you better bring it when you come block these guys. And so I think there was just some blocks that they got stuck on, and they were playing too lateral. As opposed to Marinelli's defense, you have to penetrate. You have to cut off the edges because you can't have Aaron Jones running a stretch play, just taking his time, getting to the edge, and then hitting it vertical for a big gain, right? There was a lot more of that than we're used to seeing. Traditionally, Marinelli has his guys ready to fight the run, and we have been in the past. We've been a really good run defense in the past, and we have not been that the last 2 weeks.
What does it look like on the sideline?
Yeah, just our guys getting pushed backwards, and Leighton hadn't looked the same the last couple of weeks, to be honest. And in terms of a presence, Jeff Heath can lay a lick at times at safety. He's a physical player. But even on the backside, the guys like the J.J. Wilcoxes of the world, and Kayvon Frazier was more of a thumper type, a physical guy. And now he's out for the year with a torn pectoral. So, I mean, if Aaron Jones played the Cowboys every week and the defense plays like that, the guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I mean, he finished with
I was shocked he only had 107 yards. I could have sworn he had 500.
He had 75 receiving.
I was going to say almost 200.
Aaron Rodgers only completed 4 passes to wide receivers
because he didn't have any.
He didn't have any, and he didn't have to because Aaron Jones was catching the little stuff and turning it for 20 yards.
Yeah, and something that we said in our first show is that hit that Jeff Heath had in Miami, right? And it was, unfortunately, someone got hurt. But you said it then, right? That was what changed the trajectory of the game, and we have not had that since. We haven't had someone come. And yes, the game of football has changed. It's not as physical. There's a lot more rules on how we hit, but it is still football, and that electricity changes a team when you come down and hit somebody.
You could make a lot of money selling closed-circuit tickets to the defensive meetings this week. Unfortunately, those are not available, even to the likes of us, but we would all pay a pretty penny.
Yes.
And it's what look, what'd we say? We're 11 minutes into the second quarter. 11 minutes left in the second quarter. So everybody relax. As Aaron Rodgers would say, just relax.
I would like to just wrap up with this along those lines, right? I don't know if there was a different team of personnel that I would put on the field. Like, I heard some people questioning, okay, hey, is it the player personnel team that's responsible for this? They're why we are. Everyone's looking for a reason, right? Let's just relax. I think that we have the right people in the locker room to do what we want to accomplish here. It's the right guys. We just need to put it all together again. And we need to take a step back, and we just need to take a breath, focus on the things that we can get better at, what we can control. Don't try to be something that we're not. Don't try to overcompensate, and just get back to the football that we were playing.
This defense, as I understand it, is best when it is assignment correct.
Yes.
If you make a misstep in your assignment and are not in the proper gap, it'll look like it looked yesterday.
That's right.
So that starts with every player between his ears, and the coaching staff today and tomorrow, they got to figure out a better way, different way to get the message across.
Yeah, maybe simplify and just let them play fast.
And the New York Jets are waiting, and wouldn't they love to get their first win of the year against the Cowboys? And the Cowboys could be 4-2 and hosting Philadelphia. And
Yeah, that's right.
A lot to look forward
to.
And
I think ultimately what we need, and one of the things that we can do is the playmakers need to make plays. They need to come up and make plays. Amari had, a big play. Gallup had a big play. But I think we need to see that big play from Zeke. I think we need, we've seen a lot from Dak so far, but they need to make big plays. We need some takeaways from Jalen. We need some takeaways from Jeff.
Need some takeaways from anybody.
Yes.
Well, I'm
trying to sound smart here.
How many do they have?
Well, it's
three. Do they have three?
Cowboys will be -6 in the turnover ratio now.
That's horrible.
For the season, they were -3
any of our defensive
yesterday.
rooms, it's all about takeaways.
Right.
That's what drives this defense.
Right. Okay. There's some stuff to chew on for the week. For Tyler Clutts and Kristi Scales, I'm Brad Sham. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Monday at 3 o'clock after the Cowboys visit the New York Jets next Sunday. This is Radioheads.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?